Howdy folks, my name is Jason Skelton. I'm the Director of Student Services and Safe Environments for SAISD. I'm here with Finnegan and Spike. They are two dorper sheep. They are lambs. We've raised them since they were babies, and they are wonderful little animals. They're very docile, they're friendly, and I'm a local rancher here. We have several hundred sheep, but these are just two of the examples. Sheep raising is not an easy job. Farming and ranching is an everyday job. So if you see a farmer and rancher around, please thank them for all the work that they do to make this world a better place. Today I'm going to be reading to you a book with permission from Scholastic called Bubba the Cowboy Prince. It's actually a variation of the Cinderella story, but it's a little western. So let's get started. Once, a strapping young feller named Bubba lived on the ranch with his wicked stepdaddy and his hateful and lazy stepbrothers, Dwayne and Milton. Bubba's stepdaddy spoiled Dwayne and Milton to no end, but Bubba worked from sunup to sundown doing the chores of 3 ranch hands. Bubba never complained though. He loved ranching. Dwayne and Milton spent their days sitting on their horseback bossing Bubba around. "Get them dogies along there, Bubba," ordered Dwayne. "Yeah, and watch out for them cow patties," added Milton. "You know how Daddy hates for you to track up at the house." Now, Miss Lurleen, who lived down the road a piece, was the purtiest and richest gal in the county. She owned the biggest spread west of the Brazos, and she loved ranching too. But it was lonesome work, and after a while, she decided it was time for some companionship. "I aim to find myself a feller," she said. "One who loves ranching as much as I do. And it wouldn't hurt if he was cute as a cow's ear either." Miss Lurleen decided to throw a ball. She invited all the ranchers in Texas. Soon, the day of the ball arrived. Milton and Dwayne spent all day getting gussied up in their fanciest duds. Bubba about ran himself ragged waiting on them. "Bubba," shouted Dwayne, "fetch my bow tie." "Bubba," shouted Milton, "get my boots polished." "Bubba," shouted his wicked stepdaddy, "brush those horses and wash that wagon." It's a lot of work. By the time Dwayne and Milton and their wicked daddy were ready to go, Bubba was exhausted. Still, as they climbed into the wagon, Bubba asked, "Can you wait for me to get ready? I want to dance with Miss Lurleen too." Dwayne and Milton and their wicked daddy hooted and hollered. "Why, you're sorrier than a steer in a stockyard," said Dwayne. "Can you imagine Miss Lurleen dancing with the likes of you?" said Milton. "Miss Lurleen wouldn't even wipe the dirt clods off her boots with the raggiest shirt of yours, and you smell more like cattle than the cattle do." Bubba took a look at himself. It was true. He didn't have a decent shirt to wear. His boots were downright disgraceful, and he smelled a bit rough. Milton and Dwayne were right. Miss Lurleen wouldn't dance with the likes of him. Bubba hung his head, and he felt lower than a rattlesnake in a gully. Milton and Dwayne and their wicked daddy went off to the ball. Bubba mounted his horse and headed to the pasture to check on the herd. That's something ranchers do all the time. The sky was getting darker than the black bull at midnight, and it looked like the Texas thunderstorm was a-brewing. Bubba had just arrived at the cow pasture when a bolt of lightning struck, knocking him off his horse. Bubba was stunned for a moment, but when he picked himself up, he heard a voice. "Go to the ball, Bubba," said the voice. Bubba looked around. No one was there except for him and the cows. Now, Bubba figured he'd bonked his bejeebers out of his being, because the voice was coming from a cow. She chewed her cud for a moment, then said, "I'm your fairy god cow, and I can help you go to the ball." Bubba sat up, rubbing his head. "Well, I'd like to go, Miss God Cow, but shoot, I don't have a thing to wear." The fairy god cow swished her tail, and Bubba's raggedy clothes changed into the handsomest cowboy duds he'd ever laid eyes on. His jeans were crisp, his boots were shiny, His shirt was dazzling, and his Stetson was whiter than a new salt lick. "Why, I look downright purty," said Bubba. The fairy god cow switched her tail again, and a nearby steer turned into the most beautiful white stallion Bubba had ever seen. "Now, go on off to the ball, Bubba, and you have a good time dancing with Miss Lurleen. But you'd best be at home by midnight, 'cause that's when the magic runs out." "Yahoo!" shouted Bubba, and he jumped on that white horse and galloped off to the ball. When Bubba arrived, the hoedown was in full swing, but every time Miss Lurleen finished the dance, she yawned. "There goes another $10 Stetson on a 5-cent head," she complained. "Where are all the real cowboys?" By the time it was Bubba's turn to dance with Miss Lurleen, it was almost midnight. Soon as she saw Bubba, Miss Lurleen's eyes lit up. "Why, you're as cute as a cow's ear," she said. Bubba blushed and took Miss Lurleen in his arms and started dancing. Dwayne and Milton turned purple with jealousy. "Who is that dude?" said Dwayne. "I don't recollect seeing him before, but he looks mighty familiar," said Milton. "Do something," said their wicked daddy. "That cowboy's winning Miss Lurleen's heart." Well, as it turned out, Milton and Dwayne didn't have to do a thing, because Bubba and Miss Lurleen were in the middle of do-si-doing when the clock struck midnight. Suddenly, Bubba's fine duds turned into dirty rags and he usually wore around the ranch. He looked sorry, and he smelled worse. "What is that awful smell?" asked Milton. "Why, it's Bubba," shouted Dwayne. Bubba turned 14 shades of red, apologized to Miss Lurleen, and ran out the room. "Wait!" she yelled after chasing him. But Bubba didn't wait. He jumped on his cow and lumbered off into the night. In the ruckus, he lost one of his dirty boots. Miss Lurleen clasped it in her arms. "This is the boot of a real cowboy, and the man I want to marry, and I aim to find him." Miss Lurleen went back inside and thought she'd ask everybody at the ball. Nobody knew who the mysterious cowboy was. Nobody except Dwayne and Milton and their wicked daddy. That's it. But they weren't talking. The next day, Miss Lurleen went from ranch to ranch looking for the cowboy who owned the boot. When she came to Dwayne and Milton's ranch, both brothers tried on the boot, but it didn't fit. Miss Lurleen had just climbed on her horse to leave when Bubba rode up. He was dirty and sweaty and smelly from working the cows, and he was the only wearing one boot. Miss Lurleen jumped off her horse and ran over to Bubba. "Try this on," she cried. Bubba took his dirty old boot and pulled it on. "Much obliged, ma'am," he said, blushing. It fit perfectly. "You're my prince in cowboy boots," shouted Miss Lurleen. "I'd recognize that smell anywhere. Marry me, cowboy, and help me work my ranch." Dwayne and Milton and their wicked daddy threw chicken fits. But Bubba just smiled, and he and Miss Lurleen rode off into the sunset. They lived happily ever after, roping, cowpoking, and getting them doggies along. Well, thank you so much for reading with me. It was a great Cinderella story with a little Western twist. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And Spike here tried to eat the book a little bit, but that's what they do. Sheep and goats eat everything, eat as much as they can all the time. So if you're ever around sheep and goats, don't let them get close to your clothes or anything that you have in your hands, because they'll try to eat it. Now, keep reading, San Angelo, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you.